أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
ربنا علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وصلي اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد. So, Rahmatan lil'Aalameen. What does that mean when we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent our beloved messenger Rahmatan lil'Aalameen? I mean, I was just thinking of those words and I was overwhelmed by what it meant. And I looked through the Quran and I looked through Hadith. There's so much to tell you that I had to pick and choose a few things. I was really overwhelmed. I didn't know what to bring up today because as his being Rahmatan lil'Aalameen, it's an amazing description by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But all I can say right now is Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulallah. نشهد أنك بلغت الرسالة وأديت الأمانة ونصحت الأمة وجاهدت في الله حق جهاده. Peace upon you, O Messenger of God. We bear witness that you have delivered the message, fulfilled the trust, advised the Ummah, and exerted yourself in God's cause as is His rightful due. And I think we should be saying this all month, and actually whenever we think of Him, because without Him, where would we be? So we spoke a while ago. We have actually 3 other talks which we will be, inshallah, sharing with you soon, recorded talks. We spoke about our beloved Prophet Muhammad as Prophet. We spoke about him as Messenger, and these are 2 different roles. We noted the difference between the role of Prophet and Messenger. Each one is a title given to him. The Prophet is in relevance to his people, whereas the second title, Messenger, is in relevance to, of course, the message and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who sent the message. And we spoke of him as loving father, we spoke of him as doting grandfather, and we understood how important it was to want to come to know him, because knowing him is loving him, and loving him is wanting to know more about him. So, subhanallah, I had read Sirah in many different versions and books, but when I was just preparing this today, I just lived it again, and I had to choose what I wanted to say because there was so much to say. But the reason why we are here, inshallah, is because we love him. That's why we are here talking about him today, and we want to know more about him, and we should tell our children about him. We should be speaking about him to our children because he is our what? Our epitome, our ideal, and we want them to love him as much as we do. So we speak about him today as Rahmatan lil'Aalameen. We're just, as I said, when I sent you the link, I said it's going to be snapshots because we cannot say everything. It's just going to be a snapshot here, a snapshot there. But I hope that we'll be able to get a good idea of, some things that we might not know before. And these will be highlighting his rahmah and why he is rahmah lil'Aalameen. So, Assalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulallah. We bear witness that he is Rahmatan lil'Aalameen, of course. And the reason why we do that is simply because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said so. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said so. But we have to explore what this ayah is about. We have not sent you except as Rahmatan lil'Aalameen, as mercy unto all beings, or unto the world. Some people explain Alameen as the worlds. All beings. You are rahmah to all beings. I mean, can you even grasp what that means? What it encompasses? It's a big description, a huge title. So let's explore what it means. But before we do anything, we have to always, using the Iqra principle, we take things in context and language. So let's take things in context right now. This surah, which we just mentioned, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, is among 4 verses in context, which read like this. I'll say it in Arabic first and then in English. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إِنَّ فِي هَذَا لَبَلَاغًا لِقَوْمٍ عَابِدِينَ. Herein, verily, there is an announcement for people عابدين, in worship, who are in worship. In this is an announcement for people who are in worship. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as mercy unto all beings. So this announcement is for whom? For people who understand what that means. They are people who are عابدين. They are in worship. The ayah after that. قُلْ إِنَّمَا يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Say, what has indeed been revealed unto me is that your God is one God, so are you Muslim? That's the ayah right after that. And the ayah right after that, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, if they turn away, فَقُلْ آذَنْتُكُمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ, then say, I have informed you all alike. وَإِنْ أَدْرِي أَقَرِيبٌ أَمْ بَعِيدٌ مَا تُوعَدُونَ. And I do not know whether that which you are promised is close at hand or far. That's what he's supposed to say, or that's what he actually said. It is he who, innahu, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is he who knows all that is openly said, and he knows all that you conceal. إِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْجَهْرَ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا تَكْتُمُونَ. So note where that ayah, which we know, which is وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, where it falls within the context of إِنَّ فِي هَذَا لَبَلَاغًا لِلْعَابِدِينَ. This is a balagh, this is an announcement for abidin. And then right after that, إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, God is one God, are you Muslim? That's where that ayah falls. So alhamdulillah, we can say, yes, inshallah, to quite a few of these affirmations. Yes, ilahuna ilahu wahid. Yes, inshallah, we are Muslim. So are we qawm abidin? Are we people in worship? Inshallah. Everything we do is ibadah, as long as we're doing it for the right reasons, right? And with the right what? With the correct what? Not just intention. Where are we going? We know where we're going. We're going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the right direction. The right direction is more important than the right intention. Much more important than the right intention. You might have right intention and have the wrong direction. It's the right direction that counts. So his being Rahmah lil'Aalameen is related to this announcement, which is directed to everybody in worship. Today we are going to focus on our beloved Prophet being Rahmatan lil'Aalameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah At-Talaq 65, 10 and 11, at the end of ayah number 10, he said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَدْ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكُمْ ذِكْرًا. So be aware of God, O you of insight, who have attained faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what? Sent down to you dhikra, dhikr. What's the dhikr? It's the Quran, right? But it's the Rasul who's brought the Quran, because he said, أنزل إليكم ذكرا رسولا يتلو. So the dhikr is the رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله. So the dhikr, who is the holder of the dhikr who brought it for us? It's the Rasul, because the dhikr is something pronounced. And who brought that pronounced? There was no book, right? No compilation. The compilation came much later, and the compilation was something compiled, which was the dhikr. So قد أنزل الله إليكم ذكرا رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله مبينات ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور. So this dhikr is on the tongue of whom? Of our Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, who is giving us those signs, which are those clear and clarifying signs. Mubayyinat means that they are clear and clarifying. Why? Why? What's the reason? ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور. So that he will take those who attained faith and performed goodness or good deeds out of the darknesses into the light. So now you have what? You have a reason for why this message was sent to us, and why the messenger was sent to us, and why the dhikr was sent to us. Li is the reason, so that. This is لام السببية. It gives us the reason ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور. But are we the only ones who are targeted to be taken out of the darkness into the light? No. Right? He is Rahmatan lil'AAlameen. So we have actually 4 verses in the Quran which say يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. We have 4. 2 of them says يخرجكم and 2 of them says يخرجهم. So take you out of the darknesses, and 2 others say take them out of the darknesses. We're going to talk about the ones that say take you. So in Surah Al-Hadid, Surah 57, ayah number 8, it is he who sends down clear signs unto his worshipper. هو الذي ينزل على عبده آيات بينات. What for? To take you out of the darknesses into the light. For indeed God is towards you compassionate and merciful. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُمْ لَرَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send ayat to his worshipper? To take you out of the darknesses into the light. Of course, darknesses is always what? Plural, and light is always singular. And this is what? This is an invitation to whom? The ayah before that says, Aminu. Aminu billahi wa rasulihi. So it's to everybody. Have faith and trust in Allah and His Rasul. So it's an invitation to everybody. It's not just about the faithful. It's an invitation. So that's how it starts, an invitation to everybody. And the second one is talking about you also, يخرجكم. It's a blessing. And I find it strange that we are not told about this blessing every day. We should be told about this blessing every single day, this ayah. Surah Al-Ahzab 33:43. Oh, you who have attained faith, right? What do we do when we hear Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu? We pay attention. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to us, inshallah. We are alladhina amanu. So, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, udhkuru Allaha dhikran kathira. Oh, you have attained faith. Remember God in oft remembrance. وَسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. And be motivated in devotion, morning and night. هُوَ الَّذِي. It is He who. Who? We're talking about whom? About Allah, right? اذكروا الله وسبحوه. About Allah. هُوَ الَّذِي. It is He who. يُصَلِّي عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ. It is He who maintains communion upon you, and that also do His custodian angels. هو الذي يصلي عليكم. Do we ever pause and think about this? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His custodian angels, all of them, the angels, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the first, of course, who يصلي علينا. We are الذين آمنوا, and we have Allah's salah upon us and His custodian angels. Why? لِيُخْرِجَكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. To take you out of the darknesses into the light. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. And He, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is of the faithful, most merciful, most compassionate. So do we actually stop and ponder upon this verse? We don't even think about it. Allahu yusalli alayna, Allahu yusalli alayna. Yes. And His custodian angels. So when we focused on our beloved messenger being Rahmatan lil'AAlameen, we noted that topmost among it, the Rahmah, is because He's bearer of the compilation. He's bearer of the final compilation, so as to take all cognizant humans, everybody, an-nas, everybody, out of the darknesses into the light, bi'idhnillah. Alif Lam Ra in Surah Ibrahim 14:1. كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. Here we're talking about who? الناس. That means everybody who is considered a cognizant human. This kitab, this compilation, suffices to take them out of the darknesses into the light. This compilation suffices to take them out of the darknesses into the light. بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد. ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد. Now please compare this ayah, which is talking to our beloved messenger, peace upon him, or talking about our beloved messenger, peace upon him. كتاب أنزلناه إليك, talking to him. It's directed to him. Let us just take a look and compare this verse directed to our messenger, peace upon him, to another verse in the Quran directed to another messenger, peace upon him. Let's look at the difference. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. And we have sent Musa as a Rasul, أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا, with our signs. What was the command? أخرج قومك من الظلمات إلى النور. Take out your people out of the darknesses into the light. So Musa's message was for his people. Our messenger's message was للناس. ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. What a difference! What a difference! تخرج قومك or تخرج الناس. ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا أن أخرج قومك من الظلمات إلى النور وذكرهم بأيام الله إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور. Remind them of Allah's bounty. A big difference. That's in Surah Ibrahim. And by the way, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك تخرج الناس, everybody, take them out of darkness to light, was that a Meccan surah or a Madani surah? It was a Meccan surah. And that time in Mecca, he was what? He was being humiliated. He was being persecuted. And Allah's telling him, take everybody, all people out. How do you think he must have felt? السلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. نشهد أنك قد بلغت الرسالة وأديت الأمانة ونصحت الأمة وجاهدت في الله حق جهاده. So what I came to realize through doing a little bit of research, and actually I was thinking of it at night, while I was asleep. I was saying, okay, he is sent as Rahmah lil'AAlameen because of his Rahmah. He has a lot of Rahmah. The way he treated his children, the way he treated everybody else's children, the way he treated the servants, the way he treated. And then you know what I said? I remembered when he was kissing the kids, his grandchildren, and he was actually burying his nose in them and kissing them and smelling them, taking in their scent. And the Bedouin was surprised. He said, "You're kissing your children?" He said, "Why don't you kiss your children?" He said, "No, I never kiss them." He said, "What can I do? There is no mercy in your heart." And I said to myself, mercy in your heart or love in your heart? I think what he meant by mercy is love. Or it's that beautiful kind of mercy that is combined with love. And then I began to understand how the Prophet, peace upon him, operated. Whatever he did was not just mercy. Honestly, I think I'm going to have to look at this in more detail later and write something about it, because it's not just mercy. It is mercy coupled with love. Whether he's talking about whatever he's talking about, it is mercy and love and understanding that entity's feelings. That child who's an orphan, he understood their feelings. That person who's being mistreated, he understood their feelings. That ignorant person who didn't know any better, he didn't demean them, he understood their feelings. So what he showed was not just mercy. So I beg to differ if anybody says mercy in English. Rahmah, okay, Rahmah maybe holds the meaning of Rahim. Rahmah holds the meaning of Rahim. It has the womb in it. It has the love in it. It has the motherly feeling in it. It has the sacrifice, self-sacrifice in it. It has the hinniya. It has the love only a mother can have for her child. Rahmah has that in the word Rahmah. But when you say mercy, you lose that in English. You know what I mean? So the way I'd like to explain it from now on, when I say Rahmah in Arabic, I have to say mercy and love. I cannot just say mercy on its own. I have to say mercy and love. So he is Rahmatan lil'AAlameen. He is mercy and love to all the world. He's not just mercy. Not because you can have mercy without having love. You can have mercy on an enemy whom you hate, and you just treat him well with zero love. But Rahmah is not like that. Rahmah is mercy and love. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman. Different from Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman is different. It is what? Rahmah in the now. So his Rahmah as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, was for al-alameen, everyone and everything. So what does that encompass? Plants, trees, yes. Animals, yes. Strangers in other lands, yes. Enemies, yes. Servants, yes. Ignorant people, yes. Men in arms, yes. Children, especially orphans, yes. His companions, of course. His wives, of course. His children and grandchildren, of course. But, subhanallah, you will notice that his rahmah was mostly obvious when he was dealing with people who had a rahim. Who are the people, ulul arham? Who are the people who have a rahim? Women, females, girls. You would notice that he had special tenderness and rahmah for the female part of society. Subhanallah. And you shall see how as we go forward. So, ignorance. Ignorant people. Did he have rahmah for them? Of course. One day, an Arabi, a Bedouin, came into the masjid and decided to pee. Decided to pee inside the masjid. Of course, then you don't think of the masajid as what you have masajid today, which look like palaces. At that time, the masjid was just having something around you, walls made of whatever they had at that time, maybe palm leaves or something. And the floor was made of what? The sand itself, a sand floor. So the Arabi came in, found himself a quiet corner inside the masjid area, peed. فَصَاحَ النَّاسِ بِهِ. People screamed at him and got up and screamed at him. And what did subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did our messenger say? Rukuh, let him finish. Let him finish what he's doing. So they finished. فَتَرَكُوهُ حَتَّى بَالْ. They left him until he had finished peeing. And then he said, go get a bucket of water, pour it. And that's it. That's it. Rahmah. Rahmah lil'AAlameen. What did he say to his first two ambassadors going to Yemen at that time? يَسِّرَا وَلَا تُعَسِّرَا بَشِّرَا وَلَا تُنَفِّرَا تَطَاوَعَا وَلَا تَخْتَلِفَا. Facilitate and do not complicate. Isn't that rahmah? Facilitate and do not complicate. Advocate and do not intimidate. Isn't that rahmah? Cooperate and do not separate. Cooperate and do not separate is the most important thing we should be thinking of today. Because if we do not cooperate and if we do separate, everything else goes down the drain. Everything else that we're doing, we think we're doing well, it goes down the drain because we don't have our brothers and sisters with us, right? So isn't that rahmah? We do know that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, in the year 12th of Hijrah, when he sent an army to spread Islam in Bilad al-Sham, which is where I come from, and we know that the doors were open at that time there. They received them very well. What did he say? Ya ayyuhan nas, qifu usikum. Stop. Let me give you 10 wasiyah. احفظوها عني. Learn it from me. لا تخونوا ولا تغلوا ولا تغدروا ولا تمثلوا ولا تقتلوا طفلا صغيرا. Now he's talking about what? Soldiers marching into a land. You do not be treacherous. You do not take things unto yourself. And you do not, tumathilu is actually if somebody dies, to sort of like cut their limbs. Do not do that. ولا تقتلوا طفلا صغيرا ولا شيخا كبيرا ولا امرأة. And never kill a kid, a child, or a sheikh, an old person, or a woman. Okay? That was at a time when you actually were pointing your weapon to kill someone, not throwing a bomb to kill a whole community. So what does that tell you? And he said also, وَلَا تَعْقِرُوا نَخْلًا وَلَا تَحْرِقُوهُ. Do not even touch the trees. Do not burn trees. لَا تَقْطَعُوا شَجَرَ مُثْمِرًا. Do not cut a tree while it is in fruit. And do not kill animals لا شاة ولا بقرة ولا بعير unless you want to eat it. So what people used to do when they go into an enemy land, they would say what سياسة الأرض المحروقة, meaning they would kill everything, burn everything, just so that the enemy won't have anything, right? You're not allowed to do that. You have to leave the enemy's stuff where it is unless you want to eat. You don't touch anything. Subhanallah. And also he said you will pass by people فرغوا أنفسهم في الصوامع, some people who have stayed in their churches, and that's فرغوا أنفسهم, that's what they are dedicated to. دعوهم وما أفرغوا أنفسهم له, leave them. Every person who is in worship, you leave them. You don't attack houses of worship. Subhanallah. So that is from the Rahmah of the Messenger, peace upon him. That's what the Messenger was teaching. What about servants? We know Anas ibn Malik, he was his servant. He said, I served him for 10 years. And the Prophet never once said, why did you do this? And he never said once, why did you not do this? Can you believe that? If you have a servant, you don't say, why did you do or why did you not do? You cannot believe that. For children, his rahmah was obvious. He would talk to them in their own language. Kids loved him. Everybody loved him. And he would always feed them any food that there was. He would feed them before everybody else. And he was especially kind to orphans. There were so many children around him, peace upon him. There was Abdullah ibn al-Abbas. There was Abdullah ibn Zubayr. There was Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. There was Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, Anas bin Malik, Usama bin Zayd, Sa'id ibn al-As, Abdullah bin Ja'far. Actually, the kids of Ja'far, his heart was broken when Ja'far was killed. And he came to his kids and started kissing them all and said, these are my kids from now on. He brought them into his household. After the Battle of Mu'tah, you remember Ja'far, he was the one who we call him Ja'far al-Tayyar, who carried the banner in his right arm. The arm was cut. He carried the banner in his left arm was cut. And then he carried the banner and then he was killed, and he was called Ja'far al-Tayyar. Subhanallah. So here's a story which I think you have never heard, because I read it in one of the books a long time ago, and I had to search. I couldn't find it, the story, because I couldn't find it. Nobody talks about it, but I had read it a long time ago in the Sirah, and I was searching for it, and finally I found it. I said, I'm going to share it with you. It is about a little girl, a young girl called Layla. Have you heard a story of a young girl called Layla before? So, on his way to the battle of Khaybar, he passed by the Ghifar tribe. And there, one of the girls called Layla from the tribe of Ghifar, she followed them as they were marching on their mounts. She was just running after them. And she said, I want to serve the soldiers. Later, she became quite famous. She was called Layla al-Ghifariya later. But this story is not told about Layla al-Ghifariya. If you look up Layla al-Ghifariya in Google, you'll find her. You'll find her as somebody who was helping the soldiers and taking care of them, bringing them water, doing nursing, and always followed the soldiers. But you would not hear this story because I read it a long time ago. I looked until I found it, alhamdulillah. So this girl, she was running after the soldiers and after them because she wanted to help. They were going out to battle. And the Prophet felt sorry for her, running by the side of the people on the mounts. So he pulled her up and put her behind him on his mount. When his mount stopped and she came down, it was discovered that she had just had her first period on his mount. We've never heard this story before. She had just had her first period on his mount, and she was ashamed when she went down. And so he was very kind. He told her, we'll get some water, we'll wash. And he taught her how to clean her place and her clothes. And they went to battle. And when the battle was over, he rewarded her with a necklace, which she kept on her body until the day she died. We've never heard this story before. Layla al-Ghifariya. Isn't that Rahmah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about him, Muhammadun Rasulullah walladhina ma'ahu ashidda'a ala al-kuffar ruhama baynahum. So they are ashidda'u ala al-kuffar and they are ruhama'u baynahum. What does that mean? That they are what? They are strong, ashidda, strong against the deniers, and compassionate with rahmah and love and rahmah amongst themselves, amongst each other, the companions. تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا. You see them bowing and prostrating, seeking grace from whom? From Allah, from God, and His Ridwan. What is Ridwan? It is Rida. However, it's in the an. Why? It's ala wazn fa'lan. Those of you who've been with us for a while, you know that the difference between Rida and Ridwan is that Ridwan is Rida in the now, at its utmost, and right now happening as we speak. So those الذين معه and محمد what أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا. You see them bowing and prostrating, seeking grace from God and His Ridwan, His good pleasure in the now and forever. سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود. Their attributes are in their countenances, in their faces, as the traces of their prostration. This is their similitude in the Torah and their similitude in the Injil, like a seed which sets forth its blade, then makes it strong and becomes thick and stands on its own stem. So subhanAllah, this is not something new. This is something, this kind of faith and standing together with the messenger and being ruk'an, sujadan, always constantly raka'in, constantly sajidin, making sujood, making ruku'. This is something that has been there since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His first messenger. It's not something new. But it is the quality of the Sahaba. And we do miss that in our general community today. But we do see it, alhamdulillah, in small communities amongst ourselves. And that should give us pride and make us happy, alhamdulillah. What about his wives? What about his wives? So I just want to tell everybody something. Girls and boys who are listening to me, please, it's not you, my young man, who should be outgoing, looking for a suitable young lady, and she should be waiting for you to propose. It can very well be the other way around. It can very well be that she is looking for a young man, that she's proposing to him. Look, the Seerah tells us of Sitna Khadija. She's the one who proposed to Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. And she's 15 years his elder. Okay, do we have in the Quran a story, a similar story? Oh, yes, we do. What do we have? In Surah Al-Qasas, Surah 28, 26, and 27, one of the young ladies came to her father after Moses was helping give water to her cattle. She came and said, قالت إحداهما يا أبتي استأجره إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين. She looked at Musa and she said, he is qawi, he is amin. I would like him as a husband. But she did not say that to her dad. She said, hire him. Hire this person, qawi and amin. And so her father hired him. And then he said, إني أريد أن أنكحك إحدى ابنتي هاتين. I would like to marry you to one of my two daughters. If you agree to work for me on hire for 8 years. And Musa agreed. And that's what happened. So, I mean, even in the Quran, even in the Sunnah, you have the girl proposing to the boy. So, Sauda bin Zum'a, after Khadija died, Sauda bin Zum'a was his wife. She was Khawla bint Hakim was the one who came and told the Prophet, peace upon him, why don't you marry Sauda bin Zum'a and propose for a later marriage to Aisha bint Abu Bakr. So according to the sources, when she married him, Sauda, she was 50. Other sources say she was 40 or 55. So it's not sure. It's between 40 and 55, which is probably 50. She was a big, heavy woman with a sense of humor. She used to make him laugh. And for him, after Khadija's death, Khawla was right in proposing Sauda. Sauda was perfect after Khadija's death. And of course, while he was married to Khadija, did he take any other wives? No. He did not take any other wives during his marriage to Khadija. So Sauda came to him with how many children? She came to him with 5 children of her own. Okay? Why did he marry her? One reason why he married her is, of course, to honor her. Why? She was one of the early converts to Islam. She emigrated to Abyssinia with her husband, and her husband had died. And she had 5 children. What about Salama? Salama, the daughter of Umayyah. And Umayyah was not one of the nice people in Quraysh. She came to the Prophet's household with 4 young children. The youngest was called Zainab, and she was still nursing her. And that's how she came to the Prophet's household. She was his wife also and came to the Prophet's household. Why did he marry her? Abu Salama, her husband, was one of the Uhud warriors who got killed. And so he took her and her 4 children and the baby nursing into his household. So whoever tells you that he marries a lot of women, when he became a prophet and he became established, it was an honor for women to come into his household and be part of his life. And for him, that's the only way he can properly take care of them, is to have them in his household. Salama is the one, if you remember her story, during the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when they were supposed to go and they wanted to make a Umrah and they were not allowed to, and they sat feeling very sad, and he had told them to get up and shave because they had made ihram and they wanted to make the tawaf and they couldn't. So he said, you get up and shave, and nobody did. Salama told him, why don't you get up and shave? Inshallah, they will follow you. And that's what happened. So she's the one who gave him that piece of advice. Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab, she was one of the Prophet's wives as well. Umar ibn al-Khattab, her father, of course. Umar ibn al-Khattab one day passed by the Prophet's house, or where Hafsa's part of it, and he heard her voice and did not hear the Prophet's voice. But there was a discussion. And then he came to her and told her, I heard your voice. Are you shouting? And the Prophet, I didn't hear his voice. I didn't even hear anything. They were discussing, but he did not hear the Prophet's voice. He was hearing Hafsa's voice. She told him, to you, he's the Prophet. To me, he's my husband. But he told her, beware. He warned her. He told her, beware. You should not be doing that. He's still the messenger of God. So Hafsa's husband had died also. And she also was one of the Muhajirat to Yathrib, though, from Mecca to Yathrib. And her husband had died. And when she completed her waiting period, her father, Umar, now look at this again. Her father, Umar, offered her hand to Uthman ibn Affan. So I'm telling you, it's you who offer your daughters, you who get the husband, not the other way around. So her father, Umar, offered her hand to Uthman ibn Affan, who refused, and then to Abu Bakr, who refused. They both refused to marry her. When Umar then went to Muhammad, peace upon him, to complain, imagine my daughter, I offered her to Uthman and he did not take her hand in marriage. I offered her to Abu Bakr, did not. And Muhammad said, Hafsa will marry someone better than Uthman, and Uthman will marry someone better than Hafsa. What happened is that Hafsa married the Prophet, peace upon him, who was much better than Uthman, and Uthman married someone better than Hafsa, who was the Prophet's daughter. So that's what happened. Subhanallah. Habiba, that's another of the Prophet's wives. Habiba Ramla, she's the daughter of Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan was one of the not so pleasant people either in Quraysh. So she had become Muslim early on, And she had gone actually to Habasha, to Ethiopia with her husband. And they say that her husband there left Islam. And so she came back quite unhappy. And the Prophet, peace upon him, married her. So one day, her father, when he heard that she had come back and gotten married, he came to visit her. And of course, in the Prophet's household, there's no furniture. There's just, the mattress and just it. So he wanted to sit. So where would he sit? On the mattress, of course. And so he wanted to sit on the mattress, and she pulled it away. And he said, "What are you doing? Why are you removing the mattress?" She said, "This is the Prophet's mattress. You are a mushrik. You're not going to sit on the Prophet's mattress. You're a denier." And he was her father. You're a denier. You're not going to sit on the Prophet's mattress. So why did he marry her? Again, out of Rahmah. Ramla bint Abi Sufyan. And of course, we know Aisha, radiallahu anha, that she used to say that when we went out into the desert, we would have a race, a running race, and I would beat him in running. They would run together and she would beat him. Isn't that rahmah? Isn't that love? That kind of rahmah we're talking about? She was young. And so they were running and she would beat him. And then when she said, when I gained weight, meaning when she was older and had gained a little bit of weight, we had the same race and he beat me. And he said, هذه بتلك السبقة. This race, now we're equal. So this shows you that there's a lot of love, there's a lot of rahmah between him and his wives. And actually, it also shows you how amazing his wives were. I mean, look at Aisha. He told her, I know when you are angry with me or upset with me. I know. She said, how do you know? He said, because when you are upset with me, you say, what? وَرَبِّ Ibrahim. And when you are not upset with me, you say, وَرَبِّ Muhammad. Like you want to swear, you say, وَرَبِّ Muhammad, by your Lord. But when you're upset with me, you say, وَرَبِّ Ibrahim. So I know that you're angry. But what's interesting here is what? Is that the only way he knows she's angry? What an amazing woman. He did not know she's angry because of her temper. He did not know she's angry because she raised her voice. He did not know she's angry because she looked at him, with eyes full of anger. Only Rabbi Muhammad and Rabbi Ibrahim. That's the only way he knew that she was angry. That tells you a lot about her as well. And of course, she was born in Islam. Her father and mother raised her well. And the Prophet raised her well as well. SubhanAllah. Big difference. Big difference. But that's something we should look up to as women. That your husband, if he knows you're angry, it's from something you said. وَرَبِّ Ibrahim. SubhanAllah. So the next snapshot is about a wife and a companion. And this happened, SubhanAllah, this story. It's about Juwayriya bint al-Harith. And Aisha used to say that after the battle of Bani al-Mustaliq, Juwayriya bint al-Harith, al-Harith is the chieftain of Bani al-Mustaliq. Juwayriya bint al-Harith was one of the, when they have a war at that time, what used to happen? The men would get killed or captured, the women would become slaves, and the kids would be taken as well. And the property would be taken as well. And then the men, they would have to either keep their wives and children as slaves or get money to ransom them if they were still alive. If they were captives, they had to ransom themselves first. So it was a big thing. So Juwayriya bint al-Harith, who's the daughter of the chief of Bani al-Mustaliq, she came as a slave to somebody called Al-Qais, Thabit ibn Al-Qais ibn Shammas. So she told him, I want to pay you for my freedom. I don't want to be your slave. I will pay you for my freedom. So it seems either he gave her a very high price or what he did, I don't know. So she came to the Prophet, peace upon him, to wasta, to get his opinion on that. Aisha, when she saw her, she didn't want her to go in because she was pretty. That's what the story says. Okay, Allahu A'lam. I think what the Prophet sees in women is not the beauty. He had lots of chances when he was married to Khadija to see beauty. He never married another woman. I think what he sees in them is beauty of character. What he sees in them is that. So she came to the Prophet and told him, I want to buy myself from this man. Would you help me? You know. And he said, okay, shall I do better than that? She said, what? He said, I will pay for your ransom, and then I will set you free, and I will marry you. And she said, yes. Now, who is she? She's the daughter of the chief of Bani al-Mustaliq. Just bear that in mind. He married several daughters of chiefs, several. Now, what happened then? They had already taken the possessions of Bani al-Mustaliq, the men of Bani al-Mustaliq, the women of Bani al-Mustaliq, the children of Bani al-Mustaliq. They'd taken them all. And the Prophet married the daughter of the chief of Bani al-Mustaliq. What happened? They had to be all set free because now they were the in-law family. They were the family of the Prophet. They were the in-laws of the Prophet. Everybody had to be set free. So when that happened, what happened? They all became Muslim. Is this the faith? And the whole tribe became Muslim. Isn't that Rahmah? That's Rahmah. Now what happened on the return from that battle, the Battle of Bani Mustaliq, also called the Battle of Al-Muraysiyah, is something terrible, but it happens all the time. The hypocrites raised their antagonism against the Prophet, peace upon him. They were very jealous and very much angered by what happened. I mean, look at that. The whole tribe became Muslim, and everybody's, having a fantastic time. And they, as hypocrites, they hated the Prophet and they wanted him to be beaten, not to win. So it angered them. And the head of the hypocrites, Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, started saying bad things. One of the things he said is that when we get back to Medina, لَيُخْرِجَنَّ الْأَعَزُّ مِنْهَا الْأَذَلُ. The honorable amongst us is going to sack or turn away the dishonorable amongst us. And he was talking about himself being the honorable and the Prophet being the dishonorable. He was being designed, to be the ruler of Medina. And then the Prophet came. And he became the chief or the head of Medina. So there was jealousy there, a lot of jealousy. So he said, when we go back to Medina, the honorable amongst us is going to sack and throw out the dishonorable. Now, his son, now notice, those of you who've read Sirah, you know that most of those who remained deniers were the older generation, whereas the younger generation had announced their Islam despite their elders. So Abdullah bin Ubay was a companion. Ubay bin Salul was the denier, and not just the denier, the hypocrite and the head of the hypocrites. Abdullah is very good to his father. He was a very good person to his father. His father was living with them in Medina. Okay, he's a hypocrite, but he's my father. But when his father said those words against the Prophet, he knew something was going to happen. And so he spoke to the Prophet, he told him, and some of the companions said, let us kill him, because he said that. Khalas, it's a word that, shows that he's a denier. And Abdullah came to the Prophet and said, if he is going to be killed, let me be the one to kill my father. Because if it's not me, and it's one of my brothers in Islam, I don't know how I will be able to face him after he kills my father without fighting with him. And I do not want to fight a brother in Islam. So let me be the one to kill my father. And the Prophet said, no. What you will do is keep your father good companionship. I will not have it said that Muhammad is killing his companions. And so that's what happened. But Abdullah, when he went into Medina before his father, he stood at the gate to Al-Medina, brandishing his sword, and everybody was surprised. And when his father walked in, he drew out his sword and said, you shall not come in until we receive permission from Rasulullah that you can. And they sent, and the Prophet said, let him in, and he came. And the son was the one who did that. So this shows you the rahmah of the Prophet, peace upon him. He did not want a son to kill his father. He did not want a companion. In the eyes of the people, it's a companion. Although he's a hypocrite, but in the eyes of the people, it's a companion. He did not want it to be killed. And he did not want the son to carry the blood of his father or any of that. He told him, بل أحسن صحبته. Show him good and kind companionship. Safiya bint Huyay ibn al-Akhtab. We've heard of Safiya. Safiya also, she was married to the tribe of her cousins. She had a dream, and in the dream, the moon fell from the sky into her lap. So she told her story to her cousin, who was her husband, and he slapped her in the face and said, أتتمنين ملك يثرب أن يصير بعلك? Do you dream of the king of Yathrib, meaning Al-Madinah, at that time it was called Yathrib, to become your husband? And after that, that's what happened. There was a battle, and her husband was among the dead, and Safiya was among the slaves or the booty. So what happened is that the Prophet, peace upon him, married her, and when he took her out of that location, he wanted to put her on a mount, right? ثم خرجنا إلى المدينة فرأيت النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام يحوي لها وراءه بعباءة. He put his abaya around her, and then he sat ثم يجلس عند بعيره, and then he sat next to his mount. فيضع ركبته وتضع صفية رجلها على ركبته. He bent and gave Safiya a knee up, and she stepped on his knee to reach the mount. Is that rahmah or not? And he's the messenger of God. So he let his wife step on his knee to get up on her mount. We don't know those stories. We don't know those stories. And once when he was in the mosque, in i'tikaf, she came and talked to him. And the last 10 days of Ramadan, she came to visit him in the masjid, and she talked to him. And then she left. But when she left, somebody saw her leave. And he actually told them that this is my wife. Because the most important thing is to stop supposition and suspicion, inna ba'd al-dhanni itham, to save reputations. He told them, this is my wife, because they did not know who she was. This is my wife, Safiya. And we do know that the Prophet, peace upon him, when he made the tawaf around the Kaaba, what did he say? It's about Abdullah bin Umar who told us that. He used to say, Abdullah bin Umar said, I saw God's messenger circumambulating the Kaaba saying, Ma atyabik wa atyab rihik, how gracious you are and how gracious is your essence. Ma a'zamik wa a'zam hurmatik, how great you are and how great is your sanctity. Walladhi nafsi Muhammad biyadihi, I swear by him in whose power rests Muhammad's soul, that لحرمة المؤمن أعظم عند الله حرمة منك, that the sanctity of a mu'min is of greater sanctity than you, O Kaaba. Any one of us, the sanctity of us, if we are mu'mins and Rabb al-Alameen, is greater sanctity than the Kaaba. إن الله حرم منك واحدة وحرم من المؤمن ثلاثة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made sacred about you one, and made sacred about the mu'min three. دمه وماله وأن يظن به ظن السوء. His blood, his wealth, and that he would be thought ill of. His blood, his wealth is sacred to Allah, and that, what's that he would be thought ill of? It's his reputation. His blood, his wealth, and his reputation. So your blood, your wealth, and your reputation, they are sacred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not let anything touch your reputation. All the ayat in the Quran which talk about people speaking out against women, they receive 80 lashes for saying they saw a man enter a woman's home. They receive 80 lashes in public for saying that they saw a man enter a woman's home and insinuate something which might have happened. They will immediately receive 80 lashes. They're not allowed to, what? To ruin or even speak against anybody's reputation, especially women, So, اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد نشهد أنه قد بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده. He delivered the most precious gift of guidance, the most precious and everlasting in this life and in the next. So we should, inshallah, respond to God and His Messenger when they invite us to what gives us life, to what revives us, to what gives us life. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم, to what gives you life. واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون, that to Him you shall return. So His Rahmah was lil'Aalameen, to everyone and everything, to the plants, the trees, the animals, to the strangers in different lands, to enemies, to servants, to ignorant people, to men in arms, to children, especially orphans, to companions, to wives, to children and grandchildren, and most notable for us is to women in general, to everybody who has a rahim, because Rahmah is about that as well. And we do know that He said once, what? Be gentle with the dear and delicate, رفقا بالقوارير, and He was talking about women when the caravan was going too fast. He was asking it to slow down for the sake of the women. So for these reasons, we should respond to Him as messenger in our action and in our behavior, with love and gratitude in our hearts. وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد. And with that we end. Wassalamu alaikum.
آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين